This term tasked the students to look at Eric L. Johnson's Psychology and 5 Christian Viewpoints. In this book, a number of Christian writers and psychologists give their viewpoint on how Christianity and psychology should be integrated. The first level explored is by David G. Myers, and this is called the level of explanation. In this area, there could be different answers to different questions. So a religious answer and a scientific one. With Myers basically suggests a hierarchy. And in this hierarchy, people can answer questions and stay contained to that specific level of the hierarchy. It doesn't have to encroach on a different level. A good example of this in a non-psychology field would be listening to music. If you hear a piece of music that you love and you're a musician and someone says, "Why do you love it?" You can answer, because it's in the key of D that's very uncommon for a jazz song, and that counter melody uses a marimba with an A-B chord possession, and that just blows my mind. And as a music lover, you can answer that question by saying, "I love the saxophones in it." Both are valid answers to the same question. Why is this piece so good? The music theorist in you can tell why, can analyze it, but the person who just loves the saxophone in you can just say, "I like the saxophones in it," and both of them will still be right. And this is the same thing we have with level of explanations. You can answer the same question in different ways and it can still be right. And this is one of the reasons why I believe this is the best integration for what I do. Other viewpoints include integration by Jones, Christian psychology by Roberts and Watson, transformational psychology by Coe and Hall, and finally, biblical counseling by Pallison. However, with those listed, I still believe that the level of explanation is the best suited for my type of research. And throughout the rest of this presentation, I hope to show you why. The way that the level of explanations work is that someone could be a Christian. He or she could be guided by their Christian principles and what they do in life. However, when it comes to actually working with people, they have to look at things through a different lens. One of the reasons I am drawn to this method is because I am woefully unqualified to go in any other manner, in my opinion. I have my faith. I know what it is to me, and I don't know if I could help other people find theirs. Also, since many of my jobs have been with the state, I have been asked, or not just me in particular, everyone's asked to keep their faith out of helping people. This way may seem cold at some times, and in many ways it is. However, when you're working with a diverse population, people who could have different faiths than your own, people who could have no faith, and your viewpoint of Christ could really impact how the person heals. On a personal level, I understand the healing power of Christ. However, this is one thing I cannot use on a professional level. Also, when you look at psychology in a purely scientific fashion, that helps get your message across. Lastly, One thing that I've noticed is that sometimes people think that science and faith fight each other, but that's not really the case. Throughout history, science and faith have worked together. For example, the current calendar that the world uses is based off of Christian scientists looking at the old calendar that they had saying, hey, we need to fix this thing because it's off. So Christianity and science are not two things opposed to one another. I am someone who leans towards health psychology. With health psychology, a person looks at how someone's health and their physical well-being can have an impact on their mental state. Throughout the term, I have been focusing on how issues with obesity impact someone's mental state. When looking at obesity in this area, we have to be sure that we classify the different types of obesity. Someone who may just be obese may not have the same issues as someone who is super morbidly obese. When trying to break these categories of obesity down, one will come to find out that classifications for what makes someone super morbidly obese or anything else of that nature varies from place to place. So when studying this population, it's hard to even get a consensus on who should we count. With that said, I believe that this population is very underserved. Many of the markers that we see in drug addiction, we see in people that have food addictions as well. And just like many times there are underlying issues that push someone to drugs, there's underlying issues many times that push someone to become super morbidly obese. While I'm not suggesting that this never happens, most people who get up into that range don't get that way just because they like McDonald's. Many times there's something else at play. Sometimes they know what it is, other times they do not. When it comes to why I think obesity related issues will go well with this, is because obesity can be taken down to numbers. Unless someone has another illness, obesity can many times be brought down to numbers. If you eat so and so fewer calories, you will lose weight. So this is a goal that people can look at, people can target, and people can meet. Even with that said, note, it's not as easy as saying just stop eating, because as we talked about before, a lot of these people have other issues that are drawing them to eat. I don't want to seem like I'm downplaying that aspect of things. The other thing that I think about when I think about using this strategy is that I believe it fits the way that I, as a person, think. I have spent time working in the criminal justice system. With that, I was trained to work with these people to be very goal-oriented. And I believe that this model lends well with being goal-oriented. Ideally, when you are working with weight loss, you can see progress being made when you look at the numbers on the scale. Note, one shouldn't just mainly rely on that. There's other measures that you can do to see about a person's mental state. But weight loss and the numbers, this is a good, fast way for both the client and the counselor to see how they're doing. And I really like that aspect of things. If a person was tasked with losing 10 pounds in a given amount of time, and he or she didn't do it, we can talk about that. We can say, hey, what was going on that prevented you from making these goals? If a person does make those goals, we can talk about that as well. Lastly, again, just for me as a counselor or therapist, I just don't think that I'll be a good fit for doing something that goes deeper. There are people who spend years and years to be priests, or people who go years and years to become strictly a Christian counselor. And I feel that I'd be doing a disservice to the people I see if I try to integrate my faith deeper with their recovery. So, in conclusion, there are a number of ways to integrate Christianity and psychology. However, the way that I choose is to be a Christian in my everyday life. How I treat people, how I treat myself, the things I think about, the things that I do for a living are all based on my faith. However, when it comes to helping people, I believe the best way to do that, at least for me, is to divorce myself from my faith a little bit and just go help them in the most scientific manner that I possibly can. Again, I once said this sounds cold, but it's not. Science doesn't have to be cold. Even though I'm looking at things through a scientific lens, I am still the same person. I hope you enjoyed the show. Next would be the references. Have a nice one.